Hey everyone. So this is going to be chapter 14 in like 3 minutes. I'm not having you read chapter 14. And the reason for this is because, well, I'd rather use the time to cover some materials from chapter 15 because I think ultimately that's going to end up being more valuable to you in terms of what you walk away from this class learning. Chapter 14 focuses on, if you think about every chapter that we've done this far, we've been dealing with the assumption that we have normally distributed data, right? Maybe an outlier here and there to deal with, but ultimately we have normally distributed data. Chapter 14 basically answers the question of, okay, so what if that assumption isn't true? What if I pull up my data and it's not normally distributed, but I still need to get some information from this? What options do I have? Knowing when to use what is where it gets complicated. I didn't actually learn to do these techniques until I think my second advanced statistics class in graduate school. That's part of why I just wanted to quickly touch on the idea about it because it's far too advanced for the purposes of what we're doing in this course. But the idea behind it is, if you have data that does not follow a normal distribution, you can do some mathematical manipulation to it or transformation to it in order to put it in a normal enough distribution that you can work with it. You can take the square root of it. You can take the logarithmic value of it, which is also called a log transformation. You can take the inverse of it, where you do 1 divided by that number. Or you can do what's called a data reflection, which is when you have a skew strongly to the left. And you can subtract the value that you have from a large number and then be able to do any of the above 3 to the resulting number. So again, it can get very complicated, and understanding the math of when should I pick which one of these to make my data something I can work with in the way I want to work with it can again get very complicated and is beyond the goals of what we are trying to learn in this class. But so just know you do have options if you have data that is not normally distributed. All these pop-ups popping up. That is not normally distributed. Your other option is you might want to rank order your data. So instead of using raw scores, it might be a situation where ranking it is appropriate. Now, if you do rank order data, and you might remember this when we talked about the correlations, because there are correlation options for rank ordering your data. But if you do rank order data, it does change which statistical analyses you can use, because now you have transformed your interval level data into ordinal level data. So you've changed the game a little bit. So you're changing which statistical tests you can use. They're not all valid anymore. Whereas with some of those other transformations, if you're taking the square root or the inverse or the log, you can still use all of your regular statistical analyses. So, and that is basically chapter 14 in a nutshell. If you want to go in and read more detail about these methods, you are welcome to. I'm not having you do an assignment on chapter 14. I'm not having you do a discussion on chapter 14. You won't need chapter 14 for your final assignment. But I didn't want it to just like disappear and you wonder why we're skipping it. It's because it's kind of outside the purposes of this class, and a simple introduction to, there are some statistical solutions if you have not normally distributed data that you still want to work with. Just knowing you have options and that you have more than one of them is a good enough starting point for this course. So if you're ever introduced to that idea later of data transformation from a non-normal distribution, you have an idea what they're talking about. And for now, that is good enough for me. So that was chapter 14 in 4 minutes and 20 seconds.